We've known that an updated large capacity Scrambler has been on the way from Ducati for some time now, but today they announced the full details of the new 2020 Scrambler 1100 Pro and Scrambler 1100 Sport Pro. So in this video, we're going to take a look over the specs as well as what's new for this year. The 1100 Pro is the lower spec version of the two, and it's pretty much the same as the previous generation Scrambler 1100. The oil and air-cooled 2-valve L-twin motor keeps its 98mm bore and 71mm stroke for a total capacity of 1079cc, which is good for the same 86 horsepower at 7,500 RPM and 65 pound-feet or 88 Nm of peak torque at 4,750 RPM. It's now, however, compliant with Euro 5 emissions regulations, but given that the engine specs are identical to the last generation, we can probably put it down to the redesigned exhaust system. The Scrambler 1100 Pro also keeps the same hydraulically actuated clutch with servo-assisted slipper to prevent rear-wheel lockup on aggressive downshifts. The steel trellis frame and aluminium subframe also remain the same, as does the 15-litre tank, and the bike has an overall dry weight of 189 kilograms. 45mm upside-down forks are from Marzocchi, whereas the shock is built by KYB, and both have 150mm of travel. Brakes are from Brembo with dual 4-pot radially mounted monoblock M4.32 calipers at the front on 320mm discs and a single pot on a 245mm disc at the rear. The 10-spoke machine-finished aluminium wheels are 18 inches at the front and 17 at the rear, and still shod with Pirelli's MT60 RS tyres, which Ducati says were specifically developed for their Scrambler range. The Scrambler 1100 Pro also features the same electronics as the previous gen, with 3 riding modes of Active, Journey and City, which translate roughly to the usual Sport, Road and Rain or Urban. An IMU also enables cornering ABS, and traction control is on hand and tuned for each specific model. New for 2020 is the Ocean Drive colour scheme, which I have to say is pretty nice and certainly an improvement on the yellow or black options of the Scrambler 1100. The Pro also gets a new seat trim, a shorter rear mudguard, and the license plate has been moved from under the tail down to a swing arm mount like the Scrambler 800, which I personally think looks neater and suits the style of the bike. I also prefer the new exhaust. They used to be mounted either side of the bike and had brushed aluminium heat shields. Now both cans are stacked on the same side and they look a bit more slender, possibly owing to the black heat shield. There was a Terminioni option for the last Scrambler 1100 which looked really similar to the new exhaust, so that's a nice result indeed. And although the Scrambler 1100 isn't exactly built for off-roading, high-level exhausts on one side give it more of a Scrambler look. So that's the Pro, a subtle styling update which is a nice improvement in my eyes, and Euro 5 emissions compliance, which means that they can keep selling it this year, so that's definitely a good thing. But what about the Sport? The biggest difference on this model, much like the previous generation Scrambler 1100 Sport, is that it gets Öhlins suspension front and rear with chunkier 48mm fully adjustable forks and a preload and rebound adjustable shock, which is a nice upgrade for anyone who likes to tinker and extract the most out of their ride. The Sport Pro also gets lower, narrower handlebars as well as some new bar end mirrors to finish off the sportier look. The Sport Pro gets all the same changes for 2020 as the Pro, so the single-sided twin exhaust, new seat trim, shorter rear mudguard and swing arm mounted license plate holder. But for me, the new matte black finish with 1100 tank logo and brown saddle really set the look of this bike off, and it's definitely the better looking of the two in my opinion. Gold anodized Öhlins forks can often look a bit garish, but because the rest of the bike is relatively muted, I think they finish it off nicely. It also looks like they've sorted out the brake cable, which used to be lofted over the top of the dash and looked a bit unfinished. That's something that used to bug me about the old bike, and I've seen comments about it on forums and YouTube too, so I know I'm not the only one. All of the press shots of the Sport Pro now have it neatly tucked away like on any other bike. As for the Pro, it's a bit inconsistent. Some press shots have it hidden, some have it lofted, so we'll have to wait to see when it arrives in dealers, but hopefully it's the former. So that's the 2020 Scrambler 1100 Pro and Scrambler 1100 Sport Pro. Let me know what you think in the comments below. It's a pretty low-key update and probably forced by Euro 5, which came into play at the beginning of this year, but personally I like what they've done with the look, especially especially the Sport Pro. What do you guys make of them? A nice incremental update, or somewhat disappointing after those awesome concepts they showed at EICMA last year? Let me know in the comments, and if you're new here and you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe and I'll catch you next time.